I have met several Danish companies during these last decades who have been extremely frustrated before their bankruptcy, all the money they put into McKinsey and other consultancies with no help. Their budget cut, their advice couldn't help them in what to produce. And therefore we see that, that new companies go into this area of advising company of what to produce. And this is a very interesting area, and we think it's very important. And the whole idea was to see who in the world are doing this consultancy. Who are they, and what are they doing? And we have the hypothesis that most of them, the most advanced, was coming from the design companies. Most of them. Some was coming from advertising, maybe some from engineering, but very, very few from traditional management consultancy. But we will test that, find out where were they, what were they doing, could we characterize them in some way or another, and then use this as a benchmark for what was going on in Denmark, to see if we were far behind and it was impossible to get on the train here, or was we maybe on the train and maybe one of them who was setting the speed of this train globally. We don't very little about that. So we have to, that was the idea, to find out of that. Of course, that's not so simple, and maybe we have not found all the right answers, but I think that we have found some of the answers, even if this was a very, very quick study. 1 year with 3 academics. We defined we start to look into the literature. There was a lot of names of these new activities. Some of them use service design in a more broader way than you are doing here. Someone, the British Design Council, called it transformation design, and they have a nice definition of this. But there's a lot of definitions and a lot of words. And we don't think any of them really grasp what we would like to go for. So we make our own word too and call it concept design. And we also call it concept innovation. I don't know if this will in any way survive, but I don't really like the other words. I think the more narrow definition you have here of service design is nice, and that's a part of concept design as I see our own concept. But we define it this way: a new concept is a solution to a problem that has not been solved, or which so far has been solved in an unsatisfactory way. And a new platform is, a new concept is very often, I don't say it very often here, but not there, but here, very often a platform, a series of new products and services, and of course you have to have an economic impact of this, otherwise it's not innovation. With this definition, we try to find out who consultancies try to specialize in advising industries about this, about creating new concepts. We also included very, very few companies in the world and their internal division working with this. But there it was not possible to cover all of this. Yeah, here is the partners they worked with, or internal, some of these old R&D department, or as Philips Design Institute had transformed themselves to work with this concept innovation. And I will not say more about that, but I can mention that the most interesting company which opened itself for us was Philips. And it was extremely interesting. And today we have a partnership with Philips in developing a policy in Denmark and build up competences, and it's very, very fascinating for us. That's a pity, but it could be interesting. But I have people working with this all the time. We said we only look into new concepts, and then we should try to pick all the cases in the world who really have involved users in creating new concepts. Could we find them? Could we map them? And could we find a pattern in them so we could have some interesting answers? That's the project. The first is to build a model for this. And we have built it and we have tested it, and now we start to discuss how could we find all the interesting cases in the world and put them into the model. We have such a wheel there, innovation wheel, and that's the same as yours and everyone else. It's just the words who are different here. We have the what phase and the how phase, and in the what phase we have opportunity identification, data collection, pattern recognition, I have the ideas. And then we have the conceptualization, the prototype, the test and implementation. And that's the same, of course, all over the world. What is different is that a lot of this element is empty in many processes. And what is different is that you go to and forth here in different ways. But everyone thinks about have this activity or not, and when and how. Sometimes you don't think about it, it's just chaotic, too complex, they are just doing something, but afterwards when you ask them, they could explain what they have done. We have realized. Then we should put it, then we ask the companies, do you have this activity? Do you involve the users? And if you say yes, we say how, and they describe how. And then this answer how we should put into a model. And then I think it's interesting to start with a very, very simple model, only have 2 dimensions. We have the 3 dimensions. We have the what and the how activity. But then we have, and thank you again, Bill, for these wonderful words. And then we have these 2 dimensions, user participation, direct, indirect, and then we have user needs. Are we going for unacknowledged needs or acknowledged needs? And then we have all the 8 elements in a case where there maybe are activities in all 8 elements, and then we have to put the activity into these 4 quadrants. To do that, we need to have a more precise definition. So we here said that inside here, the user is part of the innovation team. That means you can only have the knowledge from the user you need to have to work with him in creating something new. Otherwise, you could have access to this knowledge. When Ferrari hired Schumacher as driver to beat McLaren, it was because they could only have the knowledge from him if he was a test driver, sitting in the car while they designed it. And you can see, after he left them, they lost again. And what did they do? They hired him again as test pilot, because that's the only way they can have this magnificent knowledge from him. So you need to have him here to beat McLaren. That's just a case, a joke. Here, the user is not part of the innovation team, so he's not innovating himself. That's, in a way, the lead users up there. Here, in this area, you have user observations where the users don't articulate. You only observe them, videotape them, and if they say something, you don't take it for face value. And up here, you take it, all other areas, you take what they're saying for face value. And we try to map all this. And it seems to function. Then we have these names, and I have used all my time. I just have more examples. This is a Danish example, an interesting one, where they create a new solution for water cleaner plants. And that was the opportunity here in education was that this company has a very good, they have thought very much about their service, and that's their main competitive competences is their services. And they visit all the areas in the world where they have their equipment, they visit them to observe themselves if it functions, ask people if it functions. And this control check, they come home and said, there's something wrong here, because these water cleaning plants, when they have a breakdown, they have to communicate with each other, so send the water another way to another station, and that didn't function. And they come up with a very interesting new solution. This one is Intel's new cheap laptop. How do they involve users in creating that laptop? We have go through this, and we are now drafting the report, and the conclusion is that this model seems to function. So if you rate the funds, we will pick 500 of the best examples from the world, put it into model, and see if we could answer some of these questions. I haven't got the questions here, but thank you.